Hey guys, Adriana Jimenez joined here with Matchroom Boxing very own Eddie Hearn. Eddie, good to see you. We're here in Dallas. Looking forward to this fight, July 27, unification fight between Marissa Hooker and Jose Ramirez. I want to get into all of that, but of course, I have to mention 6 days ago, the boxing world got flipped upside down. Andy Ruiz, of course, defeating Anthony Joshua. I'm sure. Well, I mean, that's honestly the realistic question. We've heard from Andy Ruiz, we've heard from AJ. You know, the world wants to know from you, like, how are you feeling? What's the mentality right now?
I felt like, I mean, look, as a promoter, all you ever want to do is give value for money, right? Excitement, put on a great show. Of course, you want your guys to win. It's always important, not just for the business, but because of your personal feelings to them. AJ's a good friend of mine, you know. We started working together from his pro debut, like 5 years ago, whatever it was. So, like, after the event, Sunday was just like, still, you know. Monday, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Tuesday, I felt like I'd hit by 2 trucks. Wednesday, I started coming back to, and you know, all of the team, we're very close, you know, and you win together, you lose together. And we've been spending a lot of time with AJ and just talking about it, really, to be honest. Like, the worst thing you can do is not talk about it. So he didn't really leave the house till Wednesday. You know, he was concussed in the fight in the 3rd round. He's been resting up. And now he's just sort of started to say, okay, I understand, you know I lost and we've got to put it right. So now it's about the desire, the fire that burns within, because like any job, if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get in the shower, you don't want to put your suit on, you don't want to do your road run, whatever job you're in, then it's not a good mindset. I know he has that mindset, and I know he'll push himself even harder in what will be a very dangerous rematch as well. So he's good, he's gutted, and he puts on a brave face because he likes to be a role model. So like he said in a press conference, I never condone losing, but if you do, you have to take it like a man and you have to give your opponent respect. And he did all that, and the response of the way he's behaved in that respect, is like people have really taken a shine to that in the way he's taken this defeat. Some people say, oh, he doesn't look bothered. Trust me, he's bothered. He's devastated. But what can you do? You brush yourself down, you go again. That's all you can ever do, and you have to give your opponent respect for winning the fight.
I think a lot of fans are used to when the fight ends, and if the person who loses usually acts out and says, I got robbed or something. So,
the ref stops it too,
right, the ref, yeah, I've heard some people say, Anthony said, I'm good, and the ref stopped it.
Yeah, he did. And actually, if you watch it back, he walked forward and the ref went like that on his waist, and then he went back to the corner. It was the right stoppage, in my opinion. I mean, his dad didn't think so, but that's another conversation later. But it was more, his legs were gone, and his arms were on the ropes. He should have gone like this. He did walk forward. He went back. He said, "Yes, I'm fine. Yes, I'm fine." But it was the correct stoppage because he went down. You know, he couldn't, from that 3rd round. He couldn't recover his legs, and it was just that one shot that changed the whole fight. You know, Joshua knocked him down with a beautiful combination. He should have just taken his time. He was going for the big finish. He wanted the big US fanfare and paid the price. And, you know, all these, he had a panic attack. He was knocked out in spots. All rubbish. We've got to give credit to Ruiz. You know, if anyone knows AJ, panic attack is probably the last thing he will ever have. In fact, I wish he did have a panic attack because he weren't panicked enough. He was very laid back, as he always is. He didn't take any shortcuts in training. Did he subconsciously underestimate Ruiz? Probably. Would it have made a difference? Maybe not. It was the shot. You know, he wouldn't have jumped in like that. But again, Andy Ruiz is the deserved world champion, and we have to respect him. And now we have to beat him. And it's going to be an incredible build-up, and it's going to be an incredible fight.
You mentioned Anthony's father in the ring. Do you want to comment on that? Because there's so many rumors online.
Well, look, I like to think I'm just totally honest. He was really, obviously, emotional about this win. He came over, he talked to the trainer, he talked to some of the other guys in the team. Then he come to me, and he started sounding off about the referee. I was like, look, let's talk about it after. Then he started talking about the house. So Anthony rents a house rather than goes to a hotel. He prefers to be in a house. He was talking about the chef. He was talking about the setup in the house, and I was like, I thought he was going to just like lay me out there. He's a big guy. So I just said, let's talk about it after, right? So I walked round to do the interview, and then he came over and carried on. And then AJ just said, Dad, it's me. He said, it's my fault. It's on me. There's no excuses. And then, look, you know, it was sorted out later. But it's like, then I saw things like, oh, he had a panic attack and Eddie made him go into the ring, and his dad, it's like, apps, his dad don't come backstage. His dad's not involved in the camp. He comes on fight week, we've got a great relationship, but he was devastated. And he was looking, I think, for, not excuses, but this weren't right, he should have been allowed to carry on. He said he was okay, you know, and I was just trying to sort of hide really more than anything, because the last thing I wanted was him to knock me out on national TV. So, but we're cool. And again, like, I promise you, there was no panic attack, there's no bad preparation. He just got caught with a sloppy shot. I don't think he boxed great, but it was that one punch that changed everything, and he's got to be better next time.
Well, let's take it back to the third round. I watched it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to New York. I had to work. But I watched it, and there were people surrounding me, and we were all screaming. It was, you know, AJ drops Andy, and then Andy comes back and flips the script. I want to know, what was your mentality when that third round was going on?
Well, I'm always nervous in AJ fights because of how he is before the fight. That's another thing. Oh, he's getting a neck massage. Oh, he didn't look interested. He never does, because he's so calm. You often see him just with his robe like this, you know, like waving at people out the ring. Like, doesn't even look like he's focused. So I was of course nervous because of the new environment. First 2 rounds were okay. I had it 1 apiece. Hits him with a left hook. It's over. That's all I could think. It's over. I thought the same as AJ. Right? He goes down. When you look back, he was hurt. He wasn't like out, but you see his face as if to say, wow. Gets up and just decides, like 95% of other heavyweights would have covered up, held, and got knocked out. He said, excuse my language, fuck it, let's go. He dug his heels in and he had a swing up. Joshua came in, hit him with a massive right hand, but then just got reckless, and he got hit with a shot right on the ear, and it completely took his legs away, and he never recovered. You know, he got up 4 times. You know, he would have kept getting up, but it was over at that point. In fact, he can't believe that he went 4 rounds after that, because he doesn't remember after the 3rd round, you know, because he was concussed. So everything's a blur to him. So, you know, it was horrible, because no one likes to lose, and no one likes to see, you know, forget the world champion, but a friend, you know, keep getting up, and like, you know that he can't win from there. You know, at the end of the 3rd round, there was no point really in the fight where I thought we're going to win this fight. But you know, it's like you're just waiting for it to happen, the inevitable. And he would never quit. So you know it's just going to go on and on and on until either the ref saves him or he's knocked out. But, you know, the only good thing about it is although he was hurt by that 1 shot, he wasn't like beaten up. Like, I know it was a bit of a mauling, but it wasn't like crash, you know, shots raining on his chin, on the floor, unconscious. It was just that he couldn't recover from that 1 shot. So it's going to be a tough fight, this rematch. You know, and I said to Andy after the fight, I said, listen, if anyone was going to beat us, I'm glad it's you, because you're a nice kid, you know. And this is going to be an amazing fight, and one that Joshua has to win. And obviously, if Andy wins, well, he just goes, I mean, he's already a star. If he wins a rematch, he goes to superstardom. So it's going to be exciting.
Well, let's talk about this rematch. You mentioned it's November, December. We don't know a location yet. What are the details that you can share at this point?
Just that we've exercised the clause in the contract. Obviously, Andy was what we call a voluntary challenger, which means we chose him out of, you know, wish we hadn't of now, but we chose. Yeah, I
was going to ask you, do you regret choosing him?
I wanted to give people a proper fight, and so did AJ. We believe that if Joshua is what we believe he is, and what I know he is, he should be beating Andy Ruiz, okay? So, you know, he wanted to fight Ortiz. You know, maybe he would have had an easier night against Ortiz, like, who knows? But when you choose someone like that and you give him a lot of money, you have the security of a rematch, okay? So, and he's going to make a lot of money in a rematch as well. But now it's about where it's going to be. That's the only thing to decide now is where it's going to be and what date. We've told him it's happening, and you know, for me, the first thing I thought was, we're going back to the UK. We got to win this fight. And AJ said something to me yesterday. It scared me a little bit. He's like, maybe we should do it at the Garden again. I'm like, why? He's like, because if I don't put it right there, then, you know, I may never get the credit. And I was like, I said, that's a remarkable attitude. Do you know what I mean? I said, but surely we should get the advantage. And he's like, yeah, but if we go to the Britain, will people say, yeah, but you've taken it to your hometown? I said, yeah, but you went to his country to defend it in the first place. He's like, okay, so we've got a lot of stuff to think about. I'm not ruling out America, but you know, I do feel like, having lost your belt, the importance of the rematch, you should do it in the UK, but nothing's decided yet.
But now AJ has, you mentioned that idea of doing it here in New York, so for me, hopefully it is in New York for me.
It would be a hell of a statement. It would be a hell of a statement, because like I said, the smart thing to do is do it in the UK. But I just feel like he's that kind of competitor where, you know, maybe he wouldn't erase the demons if he didn't do it at the Garden. Do you know what I mean? But you've got to go and revisit those demons. So how strong mentally are you? To even suggest it tells me he's very strong mentally. But again, no decisions yet.
What about, I'm sure you've heard Andy Ruiz, several interviews says that if it's in the UK, he wants $50 million. What's your comment on that?
No, I mean, look, you know, obviously, when we negotiate fights in voluntary defences, all that kind of stuff's taken care of. So, you know, he's going to make great money for the rematch. But we'll decide where it'll be. And the two options really are UK and the US. And I think probably next week, we'll really start getting our teeth into exact dates and venue possibilities.
I know that he's a champion now, but do you think he's just asking for too much, 50 million?
No, again, it's like I said, when you sign a contract, a lot of those things are taken care of. So, you know, he knows his situation for the rematch. Probably be a little bit of posturing, but you know, he's going to get paid very well for the rematch. But more importantly, that's his last obligation. If he wins the rematch, he's free to do whatever he wants, and he's going to have the world at his feet. But he's going to come across a very determined man in AJ. But again, Andy's confidence now is going to be through the roof, so it's going to be really difficult.
Well, I know that both fighters want the rematch, and there's a lot of negotiating to be done.
Not really.
No, I don't do negotiation. Obviously, I don't know. But is there a plan B? Is there another fight that if the negotiations can't come through, is there another fight that Joshua would take instead of immediately the rematch?
I mean, you know, like I said, the whole reason that you have a contract is that so that things can happen. If he didn't take the rematch for some reason, there'd be major problems that would slow down his career and both their careers. And, you know, we've already reached out to their team. Everybody acknowledges what they signed up to. This rematch is happening. But right now, the only fight that AJ's thinking about is the rematch. And I have to give my credit and respect to Andy Ruiz, because he's saying, I want the rematch as well. Because I think some people are saying it was a lucky win. You know, he hit him with a punch from the gods. But Andy's probably thinking, no, I can beat him again. And I want to prove that to you. But when you look at the fights, you know, Wilder's not available this year. So who else is Ruiz going to fight? He's probably thinking, I'll beat Joshua again. I'm getting good money, and it's going to make me an even bigger star. So even if he wasn't contractually obliged to, he may still have done it, you know, because it's a big profile fight. Andy Ruiz is a star right now. And if he wins again, he's going to be a megastar. So, you know, good luck to him. Well, not too much luck, but...
Not too much. When I talked to you right before Canelo Jacobs, you told me that several people told you, don't sleep on Andy, be careful, AJ's going to have his hands full. Do you go back to that moment and say I should have listened more to them?
No, AJ knew, I knew, because I spoke to those people. Did he, he would never underestimate anyone in his training. Did he subconsciously underestimate? It's very difficult when, you know, that whole week people are going, when you're fighting Wilder and, you're going to get through Ruiz in 3 rounds. And so how pumped can you be for a fight like that? Well, he's pumped now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Let's hope it's not too late. So I don't think he intentionally underestimated him. But maybe he did. You know, he says he didn't. But again, when you've got all this noise of, oh, it's going to be easy, then maybe when he hurt him, he just thought, this is it. And he came in with his chin in the air and got hit with a shot. So never recovered. And you know, the rest is history.
Well, that night, like I mentioned, history was made. But we also saw history with Katie Taylor. She became the undisputed champion. Talk to me about how happy, how proud you were for her that night.
Super proud. You know, she's my favourite fighter. I've gone on record to say that a lot. She's an unbelievable role model. It was an incredible fight. I mean, let's talk about the fight first. You know, for what it did for women's boxing, or just boxing in general, super close, super close. I feel like she's had a bit of harsh criticism. Like, you know, there are people who thought Pursoon won the fight. You know, I had it a draw. And when I got in the ring, I thought this could go either way. You know, it's one round away from being a draw on 2 of the judges' scorecards. So, you know, it's not her fault that some gave it to her and some gave it to Pursoon. So I would like to see the rematch. I think she wants the rematch because she's like that. So first thing she said, you know, do you think I won that fight? I said, I had it a draw. She said, do some people think Pursoon won? I went, yes, they do. She said, then we've got to do the rematch. I'm like, yeah. But it was such a brilliant fight. That's what she's like. And, you know, there's some big fights out there. The rematch has now become a really big fight. The Serrano fight is a really big fight as well. You know, who knows? Breakhouse may be coming down in the catch weight. I don't know. So she's really putting women's boxing on the map, you know, and the atmosphere in there in the arena for her last week was incredible.
We also saw Callum Smith defend his title, one of the best in 168. Talk to me about that fight and what you saw in him.
Great fighter, Callum Smith. You know, he is the number 1 168 pounder in the world. Hassan and Dan moving up from middleweight, couldn't handle the firepower. You know, he kept getting up, but like the last knockdown, the left hooks, Callum Smith is an exceptional fighter. We want the Canelo fight, you know, as do a lot of people. Canelo, say, uses Callum Smith's name. He don't need to do that, but he does mention his name a lot, which is flattering. We should be mentioning his name more. So I think if Canelo moves to 168, which he will at some point, again, then that's an obvious fight for him and a big fight wherever it may be.
So you feel confident that he'll move up to 168. So how likely is this fight to happen, and how does that fight play out?
Well, I think we'll see how Gennady does tomorrow. I think the zone's objective is to make the Canelo Triple G3 fight in September. And I think after that, there's no reason why either Demetrius Andrade shouldn't get the undisputed fight, or Callum Smith get the fight at 168. It's a very tough fight for Canelo. Callum Smith's 6'5". He's a huge super middleweight. He punches very hard, and it's a great style matchup again. So, you know, we're looking forward to some big fights for Callum Smith.
And speaking of big fights, of course, here in Dallas, July 27th, Marissa Hooker, Jose Ramirez, huge unification fight. I think it's hard to put into words how boxing is rising, it's getting really hot, and we're able to see big fights like this one. How proud of you to be able to put it on the zone? Really proud.
This is, like, as a fan, I'm so excited about this fight, and I'm excited because a bit like we talk about the Ruiz-Joshua rematch or the Taylor-Pursoon rematch, you never know for sure what's going to happen in this fight. Mo's our guy, right? Marissa Hooker. We signed him. He was one of the first people we signed. I'm incredibly proud of him. And on July 27, in his hometown, he gets a chance to become a star in a fight against a brilliant fighter in Jose Ramirez, WBC world champion. Huge Mexican support. We've seen it in Fresno. We've seen it wherever he boxes. You know, and this is just the ultimate test. These are the fights that, as a promoter and as a fan, you just can't wait for. And the momentum on DAZN is so strong. You know, last week was a massive week for DAZN. Like, not just the broadcast itself, but the ripple effects after. That has gone everywhere, right? So we want to produce key moments every month for subscribers. You know, in May, you had Canelo against against Danny Jacobs. On June the 1st, you had Joshua Ruiz. On June the 8th, you got Canelo. End of June, you got Andrade against Sulecki. Now, July 27, you got the big unification matchup as well. So we want to be the home of boxing, and we want to thank Top Rank as well, because, you know, they let us do this fight. And sometimes the offer is so good and the opportunity is so good for the fighter that you've got to you've got to let them take it. They believe they can win the fight, and Jose Ramirez will return to ESPN with 2 belts. We want to make sure they stay on DAZN and with Maurice Hooker, but July 27, College Park, Arlington, it's just going to be a brilliant night, and I think one of the best matchups of 2019 so far.
It absolutely is a great matchup. It's a 50-50 fight, the best facing the best. What does Maurice Hooker have to do to come out victorious?
He's the kind of guy, he's really deceiving. You know, he really rises to the challenge, Maurice Hooker. And sometimes when it's not a challenge, he don't really rise to it. You know, you saw against Darlis Perez or even his last fight, and then you see against Saucedo and Terry Flanagan where he's up against it, he excels. And he'll be up against it in this fight. And I think with being in his hometown, although there'll be a lot of Mexican support, I think he's got to just keep it long. He punches harder than people think. He's technically better than people think. But Ramirez has great work rate. You know, he can punch himself as well. It's just all action from the first round. I cannot wait.
And of course, we have another unification coming up later on this year between Regis Progre and Josh Taylor. There's already talks. The winner of that fight wants to face, of course, the winner of Maurice Hooker versus Jose Ramirez. Is that possible? How likely is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got Regis Prograis, who has been boxing on DAZN through the Super Series and would come to DAZN as well. If Maurice can win, it's a big DAZN undisputed fight. And if Jose wins, it'll be on ESPN. So there's a lot in play at the moment, but that's what we want. No, we want to determine one champion in every weight class. That's what I want anyway. And it's great. Champions should want to face each other. And when they're on the same network, it's quite easy to make it happen. This is a unique example where we have 2 champions from other networks getting it on for the fans on July 27th.
Can I get your prediction on this fight? Maurice Hooker versus Jose Ramirez. How do you see the fight playing out?
Do you think Hooker will stop him late on? You know, I just think that Ramirez is always there. He's always in your face. Maurice punches a lot harder than people think. It's by no means a foregone conclusion. Very, very tough fight. But yeah, I think Maurice is going to surprise a lot of people on July 27th.
Also, another fighter, Devin Haney. I'd like to get your thoughts. You know, he was ranked number 3 by the WBC, but now we're seeing Lomachenko is going to face most likely Luke Campbell. Where does Devin Haney play out in this equation?
So Devin Haney has been ordered to fight Abdulaev, who's the number 2 challenger, and that's a final eliminator for the winner of Lomachenko against Campbell. So that fight will take place in September. And I think Campbell, Lomachenko around the same time, and then he'll have to fight the winner. You know, he may go and try and unify the final belt against Comey, but Devin Haney's time will come. What a fighter! What a fighter! I mean, he was brilliant last time out. He's 20. You know, I'm like, we've got a bit of time for Lomachenko, and him and his dad like, no, let's fight Lomachenko now. I'm like, wow. You know, these guys are ready, and they're a joy to work with, and you're going to be watching a lot of Devin Haney on DAZN over the next few years.
I actually wanted to ask you for the Lomachenko, Luke Campbell. Is there a big possibility that it'll happen in the UK?
Yes, there is, yeah. That's the preference of both guys and of Top Rank actually as well. So August 31st is a date we've penciled in. Still a long way to go in the negotiations, but that's definitely the target date for London.
I think that is about it. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I'm sure it's a bit difficult having to reminisce over and over last week.
It's going to take a couple of days. I'm good now. I'm good. And now you've got to look at the positives and say, let's work on this rematch and let's win it. That's all the mentality now is, let's go and win this rematch.
We cannot wait. Eddie, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.